And the pledge to begin the meeting. If we'd all rise and face the flag.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to invite Alex to come to the podium and introduce himself and tell us what he's running for.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Wood, members of the City Council, and my fellow citizens of Roswell, I'm honored to be here tonight and have the opportunity to introduce myself and lead you in the Pledge of Allegiance. I know that many of you on the Council are facing elections right now, and I know sometimes these meetings can be a little bit contentious, but I'm appreciative of everything y'all do. You've really made a balanced community. Roswell is a place where you've preserved our city's history, you've maintained our parks, and you've still created an economic environment that's friendly to development. So Roswell really is a great place to live, work, and play thanks to your efforts. So thank you. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Alex Kaufman. I'm running for the State Legislature, House District 49. I'm a lifelong Georgian. I grew up in North Fulton County, or as I like to call it, Milton County. And I don't want to take too much of your time because I know you didn't come here to hear me. In fact, I'm here to listen to you and my fellow citizens, and I think that's an important part about being a state legislature. Being in the state legislature is to be a representative who listens to his constituents. I know that many of you are thinking that I look a little young. I'd like to think actually that's my strength. I know, Councilman. It means that I have the energy and determination to go down to the state capitol and fight hard on your behalf. I also believe that I have the experience and education to do a good job at this. I'm a graduate of the Westminster Schools, Hamilton College, and Emory Law School. My family has a small business just across the river in Sandy Springs, and I work for my dad. And I've seen how government can sometimes hinder the entrepreneurial spirit rather than help it. I've also worked in the United States Congress's House Judiciary Committee, the United States State Department. In this past session, I worked for the Governor's Executive Council. So I know the players, and I kind of know how it works down at the Capitol. But this past session, I saw a lot of good, and I saw a lot of things that need to be addressed. I sat next to Commissioner Lynn Riley when the Senate dashed our dreams of having Milton County this past session. And I know one thing, and that's that we need Milton County, and I promise that if I'm elected, I'll fight tooth and nail till we get it. We also need to address our water shortage. Without water, Georgia can't grow, businesses won't move to our state, and our crops, which, by the way, agriculture is still the #1 industry in Georgia, will wither and die. And worse things can happen. Just because we currently are not in drought, we don't have a drought and we're not under watering restrictions, doesn't mean we shouldn't heed Patrick Henry's advice and know the worst and to provide for it. Additionally, this past legislative session, in the wake of pressing issues and budget shortfalls, I saw a lot of time and money wasted on irrelevant legislation and resolutions. Now, I can promise you this, I'm a conservative Republican, and if I'm elected, I'm going to fight for three things. And that's jobs, improving education, and the transportation problems in our state. And that's my promise to you. And if not, my mom's right here. She'll enforce the promises. And I hope you as voters would do the same to me. But now it's my time to listen. But Mayor and members of the Council, thank you for this opportunity, and keep up the good work. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
With that, I'd like to recognize Chief Ed Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm sorry if we had a little ruckus coming in. We were expecting that break, so I had everybody staged outside. I do apologize if we interrupted the previous speaker. I want to thank the Mayor and Council for the opportunity to come here and honor our Officer of the Year. It's every year it seems like we get someone that you go, wow, this is like the most deserving person that we've ever had nominated. And this year, our Officer of the Year is Master Police Officer Andy Reach, and he's here today with his family. And I'd like to ask him and his family to come up and stand for a moment, if I may. You guys will come on up with me. while they're coming, to explain the process just a little to the people that are here, anyone can nominate an officer of the year. It can come from your co-workers. It can come from mayor and council, the chief. It can come from a member of the community. And once the nominations come in, they go to a committee on professional standards, a committee made up of officers across the department and civilians across the department who look at each one of these and assess them. And I tell them to look at not only what great things this person has done, but what have they contributed over their entire career. And is this a person that you want to represent the police department? In other words, is this a person that you want to be like? This year, it was unanimous, hands down choice for Master Police Officer Andy Reach. To tell you a little bit about his career, he's been with the department for about 20 years now, I think it is. He served in most every aspect of law enforcement since he's been with us, a member of the SWAT team, and really working a lot in our tactical area. SWAT team, defensive tactics. He's one of our instructors. He's one of our defensive tactics instructors, one of our firearms instructors. At one time or another, every one of us in the department has sat under his tutelage and has learned from him. And since the inception of our recruit academy, which has been almost 15 years now, he has taught each of the recruits coming through how they can survive. And how they can do it in a way that they themselves don't get hurt. And frankly, they don't hurt the suspect if the suspect will let us do that. Probably my best example of that is a shooting that we had here in Roswell about 5 or so years ago, where an officer was making a traffic stop. Just your routine traffic stop. We in law enforcement hate that term for this reason. So after the backup officer gets there, our recruit officer, young guy with about not quite 2 years experience, I think at the time, walks up to the car, and immediately the driver, with no provocation, no warning whatsoever, just presented a weapon, fired, hitting our officer in the chest. Now, he had on his vest, and which of course saved his life that night because this was a chest shot. It would have been very serious. But the impact knocked him to the ground. It was very much like being hit by a truck, okay? So he's knocked to the ground, and he's very near the rear wheels. I'm watching this on the video afterwards. He's near the rear wheels. I'm thinking this danger isn't over yet. So as our officer, though, is recanting the story later, telling us what happened, he said that as he was laying there, not sure whether he's fatally wounded or not. He doesn't know. He just knows he hurts like a devil and he's frightened. He remembered what Andy Reach taught him in training, and that is just because you're shot doesn't mean you're dead. Get up and get back in the fight. And he did so. He got up, he engaged the suspect, and it was he was okay later on. The suspect, of course, was ultimately apprehended. He's been a member of our SWAT team and a trainer in our SWAT team for years. We recently had a SWAT call out where it was a very tough standoff there for about 4 hours one Saturday. The training that he has helped to provide to our SWAT team members and his own contributions to this, that for us, it was a peaceful event. We were able to get the suspect who had already committed a murder to surrender without any other injuries. So when I talk to the family here, I want you to know that those long hours, those crazy hours that he works, the time he's not there, the overtime, those call-outs when you thought that you were going to have him home, we thank you for sharing Officer Reach with us. Because what he does, in short, is he saves lives. He saves police officers' lives, and just like that story I mentioned just happened this year, we were able to save even that suspect's life, and he'll have to go to trial for his crimes, but at least we were able to save his life. And not only that, but all the officers and all the citizens that were there. So thank you for sharing your dad and your husband with the city of Roswell. The contributions that this man has made to our department will go on long after he and I are both retired, because he's trained most of these young officers back here, young and old as a matter of fact. And when you see or hear of a case where Roswell police officer has been involved in a dangerous situation, where people could have been hurt, and that was resolved in a peaceful manner, hopefully, or resolved in a way where the officer was not hurt and the citizens of this town was not hurt, I want you to remember our Officer of the Year this year, Master Police Officer David Andrew Reach. Sir?
Andrew Reach, would you consent to letting the council get their picture taken with you and your wonderful family? And I'd like all the police officers to come up. I want the police officers to line up and around the back because y'all are taller than the rest of us. I want Andy and his family in the front, and I want the council to surround them if we could. And we'd love to have our photograph taken with you.
Y'all need to squeeze in as much as you can. Act like you like each other. I don't know if they ever have to take it out and have some people. They're different.
If you would like to comment, we would like you to fill a speaker card before you come in. But if you'd like to, any questions or comments to the City Council, please come forward to the microphone. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. If you're going to speak, if you could move toward the front, we'll get you in the order. If you'll try to be sitting near the front. You're up. No, you're right there. You're up first.
Okay. I've never been called sir, Mayor. So,
ma'am.
But that's okay. That's okay. And I had the opportunity, pleasure to meet with you, Mayor. My name is Allison Stone. And I am a new business owner in Roswell. I am about to establish a Pilates studio. For those of you who don't know what Pilates is, it is an exercise form. When I recently went to the licensing area, I was given a copy of Section 10.10.1, Article 10.10, which is a health spa, which is what an exercise studio in Roswell is defined as. Under the requirement for getting the license, it is required that I'll read this, be certified from the State Court of Fulton County, the Superior Court of Fulton County, and the United States District Court for the Northern District of Georgia, stating that I have not been convicted of any felony or misdemeanor, or any other resident trying to open a health spa. In addition, if you do not live in Georgia for the past 10 years, you must go back to any other jurisdiction. Now, a lot of us from other southern areas, like me, That was a joke. I'm from New York. But a lot of...
Southern New York.
Uh-huh.
Southern New York.
Southern, yeah, I was born in the
Southern New York. There you
southern
go.
Bronx. But anyway, have to go back. Not only that, when I spent a day and a half calling the various courts to find out what exactly I need and where to go to, they didn't know. When I called the licensing area to ask them what exactly is this call that I need, they didn't know. Finally, in frustration, I did see the mayor, and he said, why don't you come talk to the city council? I would think in today's computer age, where I can go on and for $34 get a background check for myself going back 20 years, bring it in with me showing that I'm not a felon or haven't committed any misdemeanors, that I shouldn't have to waste time, that you shouldn't have to waste taxpayer dollars to get this information. There should be one area that can certify going back whatever number of years you need it to go back to in order to make it easier for a citizen to do business or open a business in Roswell. Just so you know, I did call the city of Milton and the city of Alpharetta. They do not have that requirement because I asked them if I were to come in as a Pilates studio, and I had explained what a Pilates studio was to them too, that I would not need this. So I would like to suggest, as a new business owner of Roswell, even though I am a resident of Milton, that you might want to relook at this article in the registration rules.
Welcome to Roswell. We appreciate
Thank you.
your opening your business here. Chief, could you come forward a minute? Is there, has the technology changed? Do you think it's possible to get the information we're looking for on an easier way than we're currently asking for it?
Yes, sir.
What would do you have a suggestion how we could streamline the process?
Well, if it had come to the police department, we would simply run a computer check on her. That's what she's asking for. So I don't do the business license aspect, so I apologize. I can't speak to that. But if someone were to refer you over to us, we can run exactly the checks that she's talking about.
Well, my suggestion is that if you could come forward with a more streamlined process, we want to encourage businesses to locate here and not make their life difficult. So, Chief, if you could recommend to our community development people perhaps how to simplify this process and bring us into the 21st century with computers, I'm sure the council would consider revising ordinance to update it with current techniques.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
I thank you, Mayor, for your time, and I also would like to thank Clyde for his time in coming up with a very, very good suggestion that helped me out.
Thank you. Who wishes to speak next? Yes, sir. Come forward. Give us your name and address.
Hi, Mayor. Good evening. Good evening, Council. Ron Mott, 125 Wingfield Boulevard. I think you all probably know why I'm here. I've sent all of you copies of emails that I've traded with Chief Williams about this late construction ordinance for which I was cited 6 weeks ago or so. And I'm not asking you to comment, but I want to just point out a couple of things. Number one, according to the court records that I've received, I am the first and only person in the history of this town to be cited, a private citizen working on his or her own home, to be cited under this late construction ordinance. I've read the entire section of Article 5, and it seems to me that the council's intent for that particular section of the code was to regulate professional practice of home builders and construction builders and contractors, people who do this for a living. And I don't think it's a coincidence that I'm the first person, because I don't think any people in this town know about this construction ordinance. I see people working well after 7 o'clock on their homes. I see people working on Sundays, which is prohibited under this construction ordinance. A lot of folks spend the summers working on projects on their homes on Saturdays and Sundays. It's prohibited on Sundays without a permit. So as I've explained to Mr. Tollison, I appreciate him writing me back, if this does not end the way I would like it to end in court, I'm going to help the police department find more people to cite. And I would like to think that this council would exercise some common sense and say that is not what we intended. The reason I got called is my next door neighbor is a home builder, and I'm in this spat with him that has turned juvenile, really. And I'm a little disappointed in my police department because it took 6 phone calls from my family and others in the neighborhood to get the police department to finally cite my neighbor who allows their animals out at 3, 4, 5 in the morning to bark for an hour, hour and a half, and I just find that unacceptable. And as I mentioned in my first letter to the police chief, if I wanted apathy in my police department, I would have moved to Atlanta. Thank you.
Could y'all tell us what the ordinance says about, what it says about construction on Sundays? Have y'all got a copy of the ordinance here?
Mayor, I believe the ordinance is that it's 7 to 7 during the weekdays on Saturday, and then no construction on Sunday.
And I guess the question is, construction include home repairs? Is that the way y'all interpret it?
Yeah, it's a noise issue in that sense, and so if someone's making a lot enough noise that one can hear it, again, it gets to be complaint driven, and then if it's after 7 o'clock, of course, it would be that the police would be the responders.
Mr. Mayor, Section 5.1.13 reads as follows: it shall be unlawful for any person to engage in or conduct any activity in the construction of any building or structure, the moving of earth, or the laying of any pavement, including but not limited to the making of any excavation, clearing, or grading of surface land, and loading or unloading material, equipment, or supplies, except between the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday, unless a permit for each work at different hours or days has first been issued by the chief building inspector.
I think I'll just give you my perspective on this. I hope the council will look at this Sunday requirement. I know that a lot of folks work on the home at Sunday, and if this applies to home repairs, I think there are limitations on the time. 7 to 7 sounds reasonable to me, but Sunday afternoon, I know I've been digging a ditch before, and I'm probably, that's excavating dirt, and it may be with a shovel, but if my neighbor complained, I think I probably might be in violation of it too. So I hope the council will take a harder look at this. Councilman Tolleson.
I agree that we want to look at it from a common sense standpoint, but I would say in relation to the time, and anybody that's tried to put children to bed, you need certain time limits for the peace and quiet. But at the same time, maybe when it's being reviewed, we want to look at decibels and that sort of thing, because if you're digging a ditch, unless you're grunting and throwing out your back and screaming in pain, you're probably not making a lot of noise as opposed to running a power tool. So just in keeping with the common sense approach, maybe we want to look at that too.
Yes, sir. Other comments? Yes.
I've probably violated this as well. I can't help but think that when we put this in place that the intent was construction companies, so that there would be construction equipment, there would be a lot of these construction sites have a lot of noise around them, including the construction workers playing music and trucks coming and going and equipment, and I can understand that, but I've got neighbors that are blowing leaves at 6 o'clock on Sunday mornings. That's probably a lot louder than a lot of other things that we are doing. So I would suggest that we also try to define, if someone, I don't have any problem when you're doing it or why you're doing it, if you're doing it yourself at home. But it's another thing if you've got a construction company or crew coming into your home, and that's when I think it should come into play. But if we could look at that as well, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Councilman Orleans.
Mr. Mock, just out of curiosity, was it on a Sunday that you were doing it?
No, it was not.
No. And since it's noise related, do you mind sharing what you were doing or what time it was? I'm just curious as to what prompted the neighbor.
Yeah, I repaired a privacy screen on my deck, and it was about 8:30 at night. And I'd been doing this for 3 or 4 nights in a row. and I would stop at 9 o'clock because that's sort of what I think is a neighborly thing to do. I mean, this is just hammering pickets. Now, I went back and read the noise ordinance through and through, which when I called the police department back, I had about 4 feet to go, about 6 pickets left. I called the police department back after the officer responded. I went in my house, I said, I'll stop. I looked up the ordinance and I read it and I said, I don't think this applies to me. So I called the police department and said, I'm going to finish my project tonight. I'm going to stop at 9 o'clock. If you're going to send this officer back, have her come out with a noise reader, a decibel meter, because I think that that's the appropriate ordinance to cite, was the noise ordinance. One interesting thing that I will point out to you, the law in this town allows me to cut my lawn, for example, up until 10 o'clock at night, which is making a whole lot more racket than I was that night. So, I think the police department erred in writing the ticket, and I hope that the court will rectify that.
I'm not going to comment on the court or the police department, but I do appreciate, Mr. Mott, you bringing this to our attention. It is, we make mistakes up here, and if we make a mistake, we're glad to rectify it. So I'm sure we'll be bringing this to committee meeting to discuss what's the appropriate action.
And just in finishing myself, I would thank you for bringing it forward, and we do need to look at it and make sure it's got some common sense in it as well.
Thank you very much. All right. Good night.
Next. Yes, sir. Come forward. Give us your name and address, please.
My name is Stan Crystal. I'm at 430 Knoll Woods Terrace here in Roswell. I've got an issue that is relatively insignificant to the point that I'm almost embarrassed to be here. Almost. For several years, I've been requesting that the Roswell Beacon stop delivering their newspaper to me. I've called them multiple times. I can't tell you exactly how many because I never thought it would be an issue. I thought that I would call them, they'd stop, then I'd remind them again, and they would stop, but they never did. So I called City Hall, and they told me about Article 23, I believe it is, in the Roswell Zoning Code, and a little sticker that you can send out to put on your mailbox, and all of these circulars and things will cease to be delivered to you. Well, they haven't ceased to be delivered. So I called them the next couple of times that I got their newspaper. I called them. Never talked to anybody, just their answering machine. Never got a call back. Never asked for one. I just kept asking them not to deliver it. But they continued. So I called City Hall. They referred me to the zoning department. I spoke to Mark Van Engelen. He told me he would take care of it. Later that day, he called me, told me that he had spoken to them and they would make sure I didn't get this anymore. Well, a month later, there it is again. This time, I go to the police department, and they sent me over to the code enforcement office where I filled out a written request or written complaint, I guess it would be. And I haven't heard anything since. And now, a month later, here's the paper all over again. Now, it's not that I have anything against their newspaper. It's just that I travel a lot. I'm out of town several days every week. And for decades, we've been told that if you're going to be away from home, have your newspaper stopped. If it's an extended period, have your mail stopped so that you won't be an advertisement for burglars or other kind of vandalism. And that's my whole thing. I have nothing against this paper. I kind of enjoyed it. But I just don't want it. And I don't think that my property should be littered with something that I've asked so many times to be stopped. So I got a question. What can you do and what can I do?
Let me ask Code Enforcement, Community Development, because that's their responsibility to enforce.
It is our
the
responsibility,
statute.
yes, sir. And our process is that we will, when you have a sticker on your mailbox, we will call the offending vendor and explain it to them. And that usually works. And I do apologize that it hasn't worked on several occasions. Our next process is to issue them a warning. And what I need to do is find out where in the process they are, because what we do is we give them due process, we issue them a warning, they give them so many days to improve, and if not, we then issue them a ticket and take them to court. So if I could get your name and address, I will personally follow through with this and get back to you to let you know where they are in the process, because I'm sure you'd probably want to go to court and testify.
Oh, I can't wait.
So let me find out where it is in the process so that I can get back to you tomorrow and advise you. But I do apologize. I mean, our system usually works, and clearly it hasn't for you. And
Well,
so.
rather than leave it like that, I'd like to say that I have told several people, both one of which ended up moving to Roswell, that when you call City Hall around here, the people you talk to sound like you're talking to a top-flight law firm. It isn't like a lot of government agencies that you might call us. I mean, I've always gotten great service. This is just the one time when things haven't worked out well. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sam Evans is about ready to get up. If somebody wants to talk, they better jump up for Sam, because it could be a while. I see no hands up. Sam, the floor is yours.
Citizens of Roswell, I am Sam Evans, and don't let me forget the City Council and the Mayor. I'm Sam Evans. I live at 150 Chafin Road, Roswell. I've been here since 1988. A tidbit of information. I was here the night that Jerry Wood vetoed the vote for the Lake Charles improvements. Walks down here and he vetoes it. But a couple of weeks later, the City Council overrode his veto in public. And I'm wondering why y'all are going into executive session to discuss this veto. You didn't do it the first time. Just a tidbit of information.
Was that a question or a rhetorical question?
No, that's just information.
Okay.
I'm getting old. I assume all of y'all received my love letter today, especially Miss Kay. What I'm here to talk about is the oath of office that is prescribed in the Roswell City Charter. Can you turn this on, please? This oath is given to 6 members of the City Council, the Mayor, and I thank the judge, because they are the elected members. Now, also it says also appointed officers. So I got to inquiring who is an appointed officer in the City of Roswell. There's no appointed officer in the City of Roswell. Next, I get a reply from the city attorney. The city attorney issues an opinion. That's what he thinks. He says that the people that have been appointed to the 12 boards in this city are members and not officers. He doesn't say appointed. Later on, because I've been standing here for 22 years, I have a world of inventory. 1998, I get a letter from Mike Sullivan, who at the time was the city attorney. The definition of a governing authority means the mayor or any council member of the city and any member appointed to any board or commission of the city. And I noticed that Mayor Pug Mabry and former council lady Sally White are on one of these 12 boards that we have, commissions of boards. Now, when they were sitting up there where y'all are, they took an oath. But once they left, that oath is gone. And so they're now members of a board or an authority. And I'm asking this city to please revisit the opinion of the city attorney and require that all people that y'all appoint to any board, authority, take an oath of office, just like y'all do. Number one, I want somebody that's going to advise y'all against me to swear to protect the Constitution of the United States and the state of Georgia. Point in question, the Board of Zoning Appeals. They can issue a negative opinion against one of your decisions, and to appeal the Board of Zoning Appeals, you have to spend money, you have to go to the Fulton County Superior Court. What they have done, they have bypassed y'all. We got 7 members on the Board of Zoning Appeals that can issue judgment against citizens, and we don't know. They haven't taken the oath. And I think that anybody that represents, advises this city should take an oath of office. And this should be my last crusade with this city.
Sam, if you'll take an oath that this is your last crusade with the city, I will wholeheartedly support. But Sam, I will support it anyway. You say revisit this issue. I will tell you, probably the first time we've ever visited this issue in the first place. You make a good point. I agree with your point. And I will ask this council at the next committee meeting to consider making the ordinance clear that appointed elected officials and appointed members all take an oath of office, because I think you make a good point. It's appropriate for them to take the same oath of office because they are making decisions regarding citizens' rights. It's a good point. I agree with you. I'll ask they bring it up. Any other council members wish to comment on that subject?
Well, I have one more ending remark.
And you can continue to crusade all you want.
This favors you, Mr. Mayor. At the beginning of this meeting, a gentleman got up and led us all in a pledge to the flag. The reason he did is because the action of Jerry Wood, because all through the term of Pug Mabry and through some of the term of Jerry Wood, the Pledge of Allegiance did not open the meetings. He made the change. It was his ruling. And, sir, I commend you.
Sam, I will give you the credit. You brought it to our attention, and I will tell you the entire council supported your proposal. So, Sam, you are due that credit, not me or the council.
Thank you, sir.
Anything else to hear from Sam Evans? Does anyone else wish to speak? If not, we're adjourned. We have closure following this meeting. Thank you for coming. Well, that was easy. Good point. Point taken. Much easier not to argue with Sam.